Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm so excited to be sharing with you a video that has been at the back of my mind for months at this point. I'm so happy to finally be sitting down and sharing with you all of the numbers for my last 3 years worth of makeup empties. So we're going to be doing a kind of overarching high level analysis of every single category of makeup year by year from 2019, 2020, and 2021. This video is completely inspired by my friend Tosh. Her channel is Too Much Tosh. If you're not familiar with her, please go check her out. I will have her linked down in the description box, in the cards, everywhere I can, because you have to go check out her channel. But she did a 5-year makeup empties analysis, and while I do not have those numbers, I don't have that thorough of numbers to share with you today, I still really thought it was an interesting exercise to do, to kind of look year by year at a comparison and to really see like what was I using in the past versus what am I using today? Are there any trends, or have things really shifted in my makeup consumption and usage over the past few years? And then at the end of today's video, I also want to share with you my predictions for 2022. I do have an advantage because I am already a quarter of the way through the year, so I already know what I've been able to finish up thus far. But I have spent the last few months really looking at my collection very, very critically, because as I move forward as a consumer, I really want to know, what can I feasibly use up? What am I drawn to using up as well? And so I've been really looking at what I'm going to be able to finish this year. And so I figured I would share with you a breakdown of what that could possibly look like and what my thoughts are on those numbers as well. So I know it's going to be data heavy today for sure. I am going to be looking over at my computer screen a lot because I have all the numbers broken down here. I cannot remember all of these by any stretch of the imagination, so I will be looking over quite a bit in today's video, but I'm just going to be sharing with you everything on the screen as well so that you can see it for yourself. And yeah, I'm just so excited to break down all of these numbers. I'm definitely going to get tongue-tied, but that's okay. We're going to get on into it. And before we do, actually, I do just want to say that some of these numbers do include sample sizes, mini, deluxe size samples of products, whatever. I will kind of try to offer a little bit of insight on each category if I can recall exactly what I finished, but yeah, just keep that in mind. These are not all full-size items by any means. And so while they may not be full-size products, they still are individual items in my makeup inventory. So I still think that they have their value to be spoken about today because I counted them as things that were, a part of my makeup collection, my makeup inventory, and I still have that personal responsibility to finish them up, whether they're small or they're large. So yes, let's get on into all of the freaking numbers, why don't we? There's a lot to talk about, but I'm very much excited. So the first category I want to share with you is primer. And in 2019, I was able to finish off 3 primers. I do remember that those were not all full-size products. I actually think that only one of them was a full-size primer. But then in 2020, I was able to finish off 4 primers. And in 2021, I was able to finish off 4 as well. I don't believe across the board any year I had only full-size primers. I think that for the most part, it was a combination of full-size and kind of mini or deluxe size products, but either way, I'm really happy to see that that number has kind of remained very consistent, with 2019 being the least amount of primers used. It's very interesting because I do think that I was wearing more makeup and I wanted to wear a full face of makeup all the time back in 2019 in comparison to more recent years. But I don't think I was using primer in the same sorts of ways as I did in 2020 and 2021, where I was using them as kind of like a mixer for my foundations. Sometimes I would wear primer exclusively on the face with no other kind of base products. My makeup consumption definitely changed, and so those numbers do reflect that, I believe. And then for foundations, this one is kind of eye-opening to me. In 2019, I finished off 4 foundations. In 2020, I finished only 2 foundations, and actually one of those was a full size. The other was a kind of set of 3 blister packs. So it was one formula, but 3 different shades from it. And then in 2021, I was able to finish 2 foundations. Those were actually both only, not only, but they were both the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue. So they were tinted moisturizers, and those actually do have more product in them than the traditional full-size foundation. But my foundations that I used in 2019, those 4 foundations, they were all full-size foundations, and they were actually like more substantial coverage than just simply a tinted moisturizer. But my makeup preferences then were so different than they are now. My makeup preferences were like, let's cake it on, let's get all the makeup on my face, let's cancel everything out, because I did have some pretty severe acne, and I was wearing makeup, you know, for a full work day from 7 to 4. And then I would like sometimes take it off and redo my makeup so that I could go out for the night. And obviously, you know, 2020, we weren't going out the same way that we were back in 2019 and years prior. So my makeup consumption definitely changed over the years, but so did my actual application preferences and makeup wearing kind of preferences. So it's interesting to see how that number had changed over the years because of so many different variables. I actually really think that the next category was definitely influenced in a very similar way, because the next category is concealer. In 2019, I finished off 5 concealers. I don't even know how that was possible that I finished 5, but yeah, that's a pretty huge number, I'd say. In 2020, I finished 2 concealers, one of them being one that basically could be considered as like 3 concealers, if not more. It was the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, so I'm pretty happy that I was able to actually finish off that huge concealer, and that, you know, is a pretty even amount of product to the year prior, I would say, very comparable in the amount of product, but the actual amount of products in my inventory, it counted as just 1, if that makes any sense. And then in 2021, I was able to finish off 2 concealers. And again, these were normal, like your standard size concealers. And so the number significantly dropped. The amount of product that I was using in 2019, 2020 was so much more higher, like a larger volume of product was actually being used in those years compared to 2021. And in 2021, my makeup preferences definitely did shift to being so much more minimal. I just think there's so many interesting variables to consider as to like why that number has gone down so much, but it's very interesting to me because I do think that I had really great progress on the concealers that I finished off last year, but I wasn't able to make a good dent in any other concealers in my collection. I really prioritized only 2 concealers from my collection last year, and it's just very, very interesting to look back on those numbers and see it go from 5 to 2 to 2. And honestly, ongoing, I don't think I will ever be able to finish 5 concealers in a year. That's just not realistic. But I used to just use more makeup. That's just, at the end of the day, that's probably going to be a running theme. I was wearing makeup on longer days even, so I'd be reapplying more often. And I just was way more concerned with coverage, and like impact of color. And now that's not really my vibe anymore. For powder, I decided I'm just gonna lump together both loose and pressed powders. I don't really feel like having to break it down too specifically, but in 2019, I finished off 4 powders, and I believe 2 of those were pressed. I believe so. I can't entirely recall, but I know for sure it was a combination of pressed and loose powders. And then in 2020, I was able to only finish off 2 powders. So that number got chopped in half. And those were both loose powders from my collection. And then in 2021, I was able to finish off 3 powders, all 3 being loose as well. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I haven't finished a pressed powder in multiple years, and I've had the same few in my collection for years at this point. So it's just really interesting to see, like, I'm working my way through loose powders, but I'm just not making that progress on pressed powders. So it is a good thing that no new ones have come into my life over the last few years, but it's just very insightful in my opinion. And then the next category I want to chat about is setting spray. So in 2019, I was able to finish off 3 setting sprays from my collection. In 2020, I finished off 2. And in 2021, I finished off 4. I'm shocked to see the number kind of go like trending towards higher number of products used for 2021 because all of the other categories so far, it's been higher in 2019. But I think this is just simply because I had just more progress on my setting spray collection already heading into 2021. So I already had made really great progress in years past. And I do also believe that having access to my makeup collection through the entire day, I was finding myself using my setting sprays throughout the day as kind of like a way of refreshing my makeup and refreshing just my skin in general. As opposed to in years past, I wouldn't be toting around a setting spray with me throughout the day. I'd be taking a powder with me instead because I really wanted to maintain that coverage. I decided that when it comes to all of my colored complexion products, so like colored cheek products rather, that we're just gonna lump together liquid and cream products. So for bronzer, I finished off 2 in 2019, and in 2020, I finished 1. And in 2021, I also finished 1. In 2019, I actually finished off 2 full sizes. One was a ColourPop Super Shock Cheek, so it's like a cream to powder formula. And then I also finished a powder bronzer, but it was a very, very light shade, so I had to really build it up to get the kind of color that I wanted. And I wanted a lot of bronze back in the day. I have a lot of bronze on my skin today, but I do feel like my consumption and my application of bronzer has changed over the last few years, but that's very interesting because 2020 and 2021, the bronzers I finished, they were both mini sizes. So one was like a mini that you could actually purchase. It was a small size of the Hourglass bronzer versus in 2021, the only bronzer that I finished was a gift with purchase. It was a Sephora Point Perk. It was a small Becca bronzer and it was the only bronzer I was able to finish in the entirety of the year. But I do feel like I was trying to make more of a conscious effort to actually rotate through my bronzers over these past few years and get to know my bronzer collection more and to love on my collection more and to see more progress happening in it versus in 2019, I really stuck to those core products that I was panning at that time and trying to use things up to completion instead of finding a balance. When it comes to blush, in 2019, I was able to finish off just 1 blush. It was a full-size blush. It was an Essence blush. And then in 2020, I did finish up a blush, but at the moment, I'm actually not recalling which one it was. I'm so sorry. I will try to kind of just notate it here on the screen. And then in 2021, I finished off 2 because I did technically finish a lipstick that I used pretty much exclusively as a cream blush. It was a ColourPop Lippy Sticks. And then I actually finally, after years and years of work, finished off my Milani Luminoso blush last year as well. So the trend went upwards towards finishing up blushes, which is great, but finishing only 1, and 2 blushes over the course of the last few years doesn't really amount to how much blush was making its way into my collection. Those numbers definitely do not add up. And so this is very much insightful to see, like, if I'm only able to use 1 blush and bronzers as well in a year, I shouldn't be bringing in more than 1, if any, right? That's just how it should be if I want to be able to actually use up my makeup inventory, my makeup collection in its entirety in a way that I have not been able to achieve through my panning over the last 5 years. And when it comes to highlighter, in 2019, I only finished off 1. I think it was the ColourPop Lunch Money, so a Super Shock Cheek. In 2020, I was able to finish off 2 highlighters actually. And in 2021, I was able to finish off 2 as well. One was a powder and one was a liquid highlighter. And in 2020, again, I think 2020 is just the year that we all want to forget about. So I cannot recall at the top of my mind which highlighters I was able to finish. I know one was a mini, it was a Fenty Hustler Baby. But the other one is just escaping me at this moment. And then for brows, so I decided to just lump everything together, whether it was a brow pencil, brow gel, brow pomade, whatever it is, brows, I just wanted to lump them all together because in my inventory, that's how I do it as well. So for 2019, I finished off 4 brow products. That feels like a pretty large number in my opinion. The next year I finished off only 3 brow products. One of them was a brow pencil, which was my last brow pencil. I haven't had a brow pencil in my collection in years now, it feels like. I haven't had one since 2020, I should say. And then in 2021, I was also able to finish off 3 brow products. All 3 of those were actually gels that year because I didn't have pencils in my collection. And they were gels that I had had for, you know, a pretty substantial amount of time. So it was time to work my way through them. I am starting to realize that I tend to go through brow gels pretty much at the same rate that I was going through brow pencils. And I shifted away from brow pencils a couple years back because I was finding that I was spending a lot of money on them and that I was using them up very, very consistently, which is good. Like, I spent the money and I actually got the use out of them, but I didn't really feel like I wanted to be consistently buying them. So now I've come to realize that still is happening with brow gels. They're giving me the same amount of usage, maybe a little bit longer, but it's definitely giving me a look that I prefer these days. But I do think that in the future, I'm gonna just try to use like a brow pomade or a brow powder and then a brow soap so that I can still get the same kind of effect, but with products that have more of a shelf life and a longer lifetime in my collection as well. And I can really just use them up for like years. When it comes to eyeshadow primer, this is not a category I'm very strong at using up at all. In 2019, I finished 0. 2020, I finished 1 eye primer. And in 2021, nada. Zilch. That's something that I would like to work towards remedying, but I do only have like a handful of products in that category as it stands right now. So it's not like urgent that I finish them up, but yeah, that's pretty interesting to realize and to note. For eyeshadows, so these are just standalone, individually packaged eyeshadows. In 2019, I finished off 2 products in this category. I believe they were both Super Shock shadows. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head again, but in 2020, I finished off only 1. I do think that was a Super Shock shadow as well. And then in 2021, I was able to actually finish off 3 products in this category, 2 of which were liquid shadows. I do remember that. One was a Stila and one was a Cover FX. You know what? One of the ones in 2019 must have been a Stila liquid shadow as well, the shade Kitten. Kitten Karma. I think that's the one it was. When it comes to eyeliner, so this is liquid liners and pencil liners all lumped together as well, just for sake of ease and keeping these numbers from being like too lengthy, too much chatting. I know it's a lot of chatting already, but I was able to finish off 5 eyeliners in 2019. This was a combination of liquid and pencil liners, but I was able to finish off 5 eyeliners that year. And then in 2020, I was able to finish off only 2 eyeliners, and I believe that these were both ColourPop eyeliners. They were cream gel liners. I don't think I finished off any liquid liners that year. But then in 2021, I only finished 1 eyeliner, and it was a Fenty Fly Liner. It was a liquid liner that I don't really think that I was able to truly finish up in its entirety, but unfortunately got to the point where it went dry and it was no longer creating a nice crisp line. And that's the only one I was able to finish that year. For mascaras, I do feel like this number is always very high, but it is a category that, I mean, I work my way through mascaras very regularly because I need it pretty much every single day, whether I'm wearing a full face of makeup or not. Oftentimes I throw mascara on just for a little something to feel a little bit more alive myself, open up my eyes. So in 2019, I finished off 9 mascaras. In 2020, I finished 8. And also in 2021, I finished 8. I don't feel like this number is going to be quite as high this coming year, but we will talk about that in a few moments. For lip gloss, I was able to finish off 4 lip glosses in 2019, which I'm pretty shocked about because I didn't really feel like lip gloss was my thing until 2020. And then in 2020, I finished 3 lip glosses from my collection. And in 2021, I finished off 4 as well. And I'm really happy to see that that number has been very much consistent across the board as well. For lip primer, this is a category that I won't have ever ongoing, but I do have it because in 2020, I was able to finish 1. Across the board, otherwise, it was 0. I have no interest in ever having any kind of lip priming products in my collection. I don't have any interest. When it comes to lip liners, in 2019, I finished off 1 lip liner. 2020, I finished 2. And in 2021, nothing. I didn't finish up any. And I have recently seen quite an increase in my lip liner collection. So considering that that number has increased quite a lot, it is, you know, eye-opening for sure, to say the least, to see that I've only been able to finish off 3 in the last few years of my life. So yeah, something I'd like to kind of work on, but I don't find myself so drawn to lip liners either. And when it comes to lipsticks, the final category, I finished off 3 lipsticks in 2019, which I'm pretty impressed by. I feel like that's a pretty large number. In 2020, I finished off just 1 lipstick, but still, that's pretty good. And in 2020, I was not able to finish off any lipsticks. I absolutely have to interject here and correct myself. I did finish 1 lipstick last year, and it was that big occasion for me. I finished my ColourPop Luxe lipstick in the shade Tiptoe. The grand total for each year is, in 2019, I finished off 51 products from my collection. In 2020, I was able to finish off 38 products from my collection. And in 2021, I was able to finish 40. So of course, 2019 was the highest number in every category. Pretty much I had the most products used in 2019. And then in 2020, it was the lowest number of products used with 38, but that's okay. I feel all right about that still. That's still a lot of products to use up in a calendar year. And in 2021, I stayed right about on par with 2020, having 40 products finished, and I feel like that is very good, and I'm very happy with that number. About 10 products per quarter, really, and I think that that is great. I really think that the empties numbers are a reflection of my makeup style at any given point. So it's understandable that 2019 I was able to use more makeup because I did have a very different lifestyle. I was working out of home every day of the week pretty much. I was, you know, going out and about doing things outside of my work hours as well in a different capacity than 2020 and 2021 allowed for. And my lifestyle has just generally changed as well. Like, I just don't feel like compelled to do those things anymore. I really am more of a homebody these days, but I also just wear less makeup. I ended up having to take a quick break from filming, so I don't exactly know where I finished off, but why don't we get into my 2022 predictions? I am really excited to share these numbers with you because I have been really analytical of my collection, really looking at what has progress on it and what do I really want to obtain in my makeup collection this coming year. Do I want to see more pans in my collection? Do I want to see more empties? So I'm going to talk about it category by category with you and share with you what I think is realistic that I will actually finish off. And I'd be curious to look back at the end of this year and see if these numbers are accurate. So when it comes to primer, I think I can only finish 2 primers. So I think this is going to be my worst year yet for primers because I've been able to finish so many more over the past few years, but that's okay. I don't have any mini primers in my collection right now. Everything that I have is full size, and really for the most part, they don't have a ton of progress on them. So that's why I think I can only finish off 2. Yeah, I want to make some good progress on my primer collection for sure, but I think I'd like to still see the 2 that have the least product in them used up, and then the other ones I want to make, you know, a little bit of head start on for the coming years. For foundation, I believe I'll only be able to finish off 2 foundations this year, one being a mini, it's like a tinted moisturizer, and then the other one being a stick foundation. I know in my products I want to pan in 2021, like wrap up, and then I talked about my goals for 2022. I talked about a full size liquid foundation, the Becca Skin Love. And I just don't know that I'll be able to actually finish that off this year. I'm not feeling super into wearing basically anything that has more than a sheer coverage to it. So I just don't know with certainty that I'll be able to finish that off. But so that's why I didn't want to put that in that number. I don't want to say that I'll finish off 3 foundations or tinted moisturizers because I just don't foresee that being the case. When it comes to concealer, I think I'm going to be pretty much just on par with how the last couple years have gone. So aside from 2019, in 2020 and 2021, I was able to finish off 2. I think I should be able to finish off 2 again this year. I'm very, very close on 1. And my concealer collection is very small at the moment as well. I only have, I think, 3 other concealers outside of that one. So I should be able to finish off a second one with ease as long as I get into it very soon and start working on it. When it comes to powder, I think I'll be able to finish off 3 powders this year, which feels very significant to me. I'm really happy to really think that I'll be able to kind of keep that momentum going. I've already finished off 1 pressed powder, so that's where I'm feeling very confident because I've already made that progress already. I've already seen 1 item used up in its entirety. And I think that I will be able to finish off 1 loose powder, which is in my project pan at the moment. And I think I'll actually be able to also finish off another pressed powder because I've already made some significant progress on it so far. For setting sprays, I currently have only 2 setting sprays in my collection and they both have really great progress on them. So I think I'll be able to finish them both off. I may end up bringing more setting sprays into my collection once those are used up, but I don't foresee myself being able to use them up. Maybe, but I can't really predict that as it stands right now. For bronzer, there's a possibility that I could finish off 1 bronzer. So I think I can keep that number, you know, still on the same sort of trajectory, just 1 more bronzer used up out of my collection. However, I haven't decided if I'm going to yet or not. I would like to, I would really like to, but there's also a part of me that really wants to see my bronzer collection looking more loved. I want to see more dips and pans in my bronzer collection. And so I may prioritize that over actually using up the one that I think is very close. It's the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, but I want to love on my collection more thoroughly and more wholly. And I think that if I do dedicate the time to finishing off that bronzer, that takes away from the experience of using the other ones still while they're, you know, still usable, not expired. And for blush, it's the same sort of thing. It is a possibility that I'll be able to finish off 1. I would love to be able to finish off my Essence Satin Touch blush. But again, I really just want to be using my collection, you know, more evenly and using things and just enjoying the things that I have. So we will see if that happens. It would be really nice because I've had that blush for so long, but my current mentality is not that I want to hyper focus on strictly using up items. I really want to use everything more. The next category defies all trends and all common sense, but I think I'm gonna finish 4 highlighters this year. I think so. I am pretty determined to bring my highlighter collection down. I have far too many in excess and I'm not planning on bringing any more into my collection. And so I really want to do it. I want to finish off 4. I have already finished one, the NYX Nectar from the Highlight and Contour Kit. I did finish that off by mixing it with my Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder a couple months, like a month and a bit ago. So I am really happy that that's already gone. That's 1 powder highlighter out of my life, which is amazing. But I also am very close to finishing up the Charlotte Tilbury liquid highlighter that's in my project pan. I have another mini liquid highlighter that I am determined to use up this year because it has been in my life for far too long. And then I have a ColourPop Super Shock Cheek that I was working on in my Partners in Cream last year that I really think if I dedicate just a couple more months to it, I will be able to finish it off. And these are all formulas that I really enjoy wearing, you know, on the body and on the face. And so I can use quite a lot of volume of them. I'm just gonna say it, this is gonna be my best year yet when it comes to highlighter. I'm just gonna knock it out of the park and I'm gonna use 4 highlighters from my collection. For brow products, I think I'm going to use up fewer than I did in years past. As I talked about in the brow category previously, my preferences have changed. I don't really want to continually be buying things like pencils and brow gels that I work my way through pretty frequently, but I will finish off 2 brow gels. I've actually already finished one. I haven't yet shared that with you. It'll be in an upcoming empties video, but I have finished one, and then I'm working on another one for my collection, and I imagine I should be able to finish that off by the end of this calendar year. But I don't think I'll be able to finish off any more products because I'll just have those large size items outstanding, and so it might just be 2 brow products, 2 single brow products, and that's okay. Totally fine with me. For eyeshadow primer, I think I'm finally gonna get another number on the board with this one. I'm working on a primer in my project pan right now, so I think I should be able to finish it off at some point this year, but I don't think I'll finish any more than just that one eyeshadow primer. For eyeshadows, again, these are just like individually packaged eyeshadows, not eyeshadows in palettes, but I think I should be able to finish off 2. I've been kind of unofficially panning 2 eyeshadows from my collection. One is a ColourPop Super Shock Shadow that has been around just far too long, and then the other one is a liquid eyeshadow. Same story, it's been around for far too long, so I've been working on trying to finish both of those up recently, and I think I should be able to finish those, but possibly no other eyeshadow products, unfortunately, because that is a huge category in my collection. For eyeliner, I think I should be able to finish off 1 pencil and 1 liquid eyeliner, so 2 products in that category. I am very close to finishing up a pencil eyeliner already, actually, that I've had in my collection for many years, and I love it. But I'm very close to using that one up. And then for liquid liner, I think I should be able to use up my ColourPop BFF liquid liner. It's approaching 2 years old, and I do reach for it, you know, not every day by any means, but relatively consistently, and I have noticed that it isn't as saturated as it used to be. For mascara, this year I think I will be able to finish off 6 mascaras. In years past, it's been 9 or 8 products. I think this year it's going to be a little bit different. I have finished off 2 mascaras already. They were both minis, and I have 4 other mascaras in my life. So 1 that I'm currently working on, and then 3 minis as well that I eventually will work on this year. Maybe it will be only 5 mascaras, but I have changed my way of consuming mascara in this past couple months as opposed to years past. I used to have like 5 mascaras open at any time, but I have come to realize that through having multiples open, I just am not able to use up mascaras to actual completion as opposed to just allowing them to dry out. And I don't get the best result of my mascara by having, you know, one that's been open for a month but hasn't been touched in a month. It's just not going to be at its best, at its freshest formulation, and I'm not going to be able to enjoy it as thoroughly and as lengthy either as one that I just dedicate my efforts to entirely for 3 months at a time. For lip glosses, I'm thinking that I'll be able to keep that number pretty consistent with the last few years, and I'll be able to finish off 4 lip glosses this year. I've actually finished off 2 already. We're only a quarter of the way through the year, so I do imagine that I should be able to finish off 2 more. I don't see that being an issue. I don't have any that have really huge, massive, significant progress on them at the moment, but lip gloss is something that I can work my way through basically in a season. For lip liner, I think I'll be able to finish off 1, which would be great because last year it was nothing. I didn't finish 1 single lip liner last year, so I want to remedy that this year and finish 1. I think it's only 1 though that I'll be able to finish off because the majority of my lip liner collection doesn't have really great progress on it, and I've said it many a times before, but I just don't tend to reach for lip liner that often, so how can I use them up if I'm not using them at all? Oh, I realized I skipped lip primer, but as I said previously, that number is just gonna always be 0, so I guess I shouldn't even bother talking about it. That is it. I'm not gonna finish any, I don't have any, and I won't have any. And then for lipstick, the final category, I think I should be able to finish off 3 lipsticks this year, which would be amazing because last year I finished off only 1. So that would be huge. That would be so cool. I would love that. But for real, I think that would be so amazing to finish off 3 lipsticks. I already have 2 in my collection that are decanted, and I'm just trying to use up those last little inaccessible bits. And then I think I should be able to finish off 1 more. It might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to really push to do so. I'd really like to use up 3 lipsticks. The fact that my lipstick collection is quite substantial, like quite large for my personal preferences, means that I should be using a decent amount of lipsticks in a year, but we shall see. So that would bring me to a grand total of 38 products used by the end of this year, and that would be on par with what I was able to use up in 2020. So it's not a huge number, but it's nice to see that I think I'll be pretty much right on par, on track with how I have been in the last couple years with my makeup usage, and that's good. I don't want to see myself you know, not being able to make progress on my collection, but I do really want to think about progress as not just simply empties either. And that is going to be an overarching thing that we see through my Project Pan this year, as well as just kind of like my mentality of what makeup usage and consumption means to me. And that's enjoying the collection that I have and the rhythms that that takes me through, as opposed to bringing in more and more products and not actually using them up. So yeah, that is everything for today's video. I know it was a bit of a doozy, but I hope that you found it enjoyable and that it provided a little bit of insight and maybe makes you reflect on your own makeup consumption over the last few years as well. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about all these numbers, if you've noticed kind of a similar sort of trend in your own makeup usage over the past few years, or if this inspires you to start keeping track of your makeup usage as well. But that is everything. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me. It means so much more to me than you'll ever know. I'm sure of it. I feel like I say that all the time, but it's true. But yes, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.